Welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Wednesday, the 5th day of Cheshvan, and we're going to give the class for yesterday, being that I traveled here for a wedding in Montreal, Baruch Hashem, so only for good things, Baruch Hashem. So yesterday I couldn't give the shir, so we're going to learn the beginning of chapter 26, letter 26, in the Igeret Hakodesh. The Alter Rebbe addresses a statement in the Zohar which can be misunderstood. And in a way it follows what the Alter Rebbe explained last chapter in letter 25. As you remember, we learned about a statement of the Baal Shem Tov, what it means that Hashem, God, dwells even in the lowest places. And in this letter, the Alter Rebbe talks about the way the Torah itself vests itself into the lowest places. And there is a job that we need to do by refining. When a Jew studies Torah and he uses his concentration, his intellect, to toil in understanding the statements of the Torah, the arguments in the Torah, the kosher, what is not. This also brings out and refines and the parts in the Torah that vest itself in the lowest places. However, the way it is in the statement in the Zohar may be misunderstood if we don't understand it properly. And it may sound like parts of the Torah itself, God forbid, is connected with the tree of good and evil. And the sum of parts of the Torah, the mystical parts, is connected with the tree of life, and the revealed part is connected with the tree of good and evil. And the Alter Rebbe says that it's not so, of course, and he explains what is the true meaning of the Zohar. So in yesterday's lesson we learned the statement of the Zohar, which in of itself is also a very interesting statement, talking about the coming of Mashiach, and you'll find it very interesting. And today's lesson, Alter Rebbe asks the questions that the way people misunderstand it raises some questions. So let's see inside what the Alter Rebbe says. So, Beraya Mehimne, Parshas Nosai, V'amaskilim yaziru kazoyar orakia. On the verse, and the wise shall shine like the radiance of the firmament. So the Rai Mehemna in Parshas Nosai comments. What is the Rai Mehemna? This is the part of the Zohar which is called Rai Mehemna. It is attributed to Moses. And the Zohar says there, talking about Eliyahu, talking about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And he says that with this book of yours, with this work of yours, which is the Zohar, the Jewish people will come out from exile by studying the Zohar and then the deeper parts of the Torah and so on. So that's what it says there. With this work of yours, meaning Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's work, which is the book of the Zohar. Zohar literally means radiance. So min zahara de ima ilah teshuva, from the radiance of ima ilah, which is teshuva. Ima ilah is the supernal mother. It refers to the level of bina, which is connected with teshuva. Says the Zohar there, be'ilein lo yitzarich nisayin. With those who study this work, no trial is needed. And as we get closer to Mashiach, there will be trials and purifications and revealing separating the good from the bad. So he says those who study, those who connected with this study of yours, the Zohar, they will not need the trials. ובגין דהסידים ישראל למיתה מאילונה דחיה, דהיו היי ספר הזויה, איפקון בהם מן גלוסה ברחמן, because eventually the Jewish people will taste of the tree of life, which is this book of the Zoya. They will go out of exile with it in mercy. V'izkayim behoin, Hashem bodo dianchenu ve'ein imoi kel neicha, for them shall be fulfilled the verse, God alone will lead them, and there is no strange God with him. The Jewish people will go it alone with Hashem. No strange God. Not going to need the help of the angels of the other nations. Interesting. Sounds like current events happening today. But in any case, he goes on to say as follows. And the tree of knowledge, good and evil, meaning prohibitions and permissions, impurity and purity, will no longer dominate Israel. So it sounds like, where does it say about the impurity, purity, all of these things, what is kosher, what is not? It is the revealed part of the Torah. So it says, then that will no longer rule over the Jews. For their sustenance will derive only from the side of the tree of life, wherein there is no problematic query which emanates from the side of the evil, and no controversy which emanates from the spirit of impurity. So again, talking about what it sounds like, the mystical teaching of the Zohar, which only talks about the spiritual things, only pure things, not unlike the other parts in the Torah that talks about the pure and impure and arguments. As it is written, and the spirit of impurity I shall remove from the earth. Thus, the Torah scholars will not be sustained by illiterate people, but from the side of good, who eat that which is pure, kosher, and permitted. Nor will they be sustained by the mixed multitude who eat that which is impure, ritually unfit, and prohibited. The Zohar continues and says, while the tree of good and evil dominates the world, these sages, who are likened to the Shabbat and festivals, they have nothing except that which is given to them by those who are called unsanctified ones. It says, just like the Shabbos day, which only has what has been prepared for it on a weekday. So it says, just like a Shabbos, what do you eat on Shabbos, what is prepared on the weekday? The weekday is the time when we separate the good and the bad, and we work in the physical material world and so on. So the same thing, it says that the sages, in the time when the good and evil are controlling, the sages, they need to be sustained by whatever they're given from the other side. However, when the tree of life will dominate, the tree of good and evil will be suppressed, and the illiterate people will only have what the Torah scholars give them. They will be subjugated to them as if they did not exist in the world. Accordingly, the prohibited and permitted, the impure and pure, will not be removed from the illiterate people. Why not? So he says, because the illiterate people, those people who are not part of this learning of the mystical part of the Torah, they will still have, for them, the difference between days of Mashiach and the current days of exile is only that there will be no longer servitude to the nations. The Misitrayu lays ben galus l'meisa Mashiach l'shivud malchus belvad. As regard to them, there will be no difference between the era of exile and the days of Mashiach, except for the Jewish people's release from the servitude to the nations. And again he says, the inun loita mamilon edechaya, for they will not have tasted of the tree of life. And they will require the Mishnayot, which set out the laws of prohibition and permission, impurity and purity. Here ends the quotation from the Rayim Hemna, and that is what we learned yesterday, when the Alter Rebbe is going to ask some questions on this. When you study the Zohar and study Kabbala, you have to make sure you do it with the teachings of Chasidus, otherwise you may get things very wrong. Says the Alter Rebbe, Vine, now at first glance, what the words of this passage imply to those who lack understanding, what does it sound? It sounds like the learning of the Torah, the revealed part of the Torah, the prohibitions and the permissions, the revealed part of the Torah. He says, sounds like this comes from the tree of good and bad. It's that the study of the laws of the ritual prohibitions and permissions and the order of taharot, where the laws of purity and impurity are found, this relates only to the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So first of all, says the Alter Rebbe, that is really, really surprising to make such a statement. We know that the Torah, the entire Torah, is called the tree of life. So it says, Mevachu pelagodel machmas atzmai. Now this is most surprising in itself, that a particular area within the Torah should be designated as the tree of knowledge of good and evil, thus relating it to the klipas nega, which is an admixture of good and evil. Moreover, this contradicts the plain meaning of Scripture and the teachings of our sages of blessed memory. That the entire Torah that has been revealed to us and to our children, meaning the dimensions of Nigla, is called a tree of life to those who hold fast to it. And not only the book of the Zohar, the entire Torah is the tree of life. In addition, says the Alter Rebbe, when they made the statement that the Torah is tree of life, at that time, the Zohar was not known, was concealed. This is especially so since the Zohar was still concealed in their days. Indeed, the whole wisdom of Kabbala was hidden in their days and concealed from all the Torah scholars except for a select few. And even those select few, they would only study it in a hidden way. And even then it was studied in a concealed manner and not publicly, as stated in the Gemara. Thus, says the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Yitzchak Luya of blessed memory, he stated that it is only in these later generations that it is permitted and obligatory to reveal this wisdom, the Kabbala, which illuminates the esoteric dimensions of the Torah, but not in the earlier generations. So if the earlier generations, they didn't have the Zohar, then when they said the tree of life, that Torah is the tree of life, certainly talking about the other parts of Torah, the revealed part of the Torah. In addition, says the Alter Rebbe, v'gam Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai Yomar b'zeh HaKodesh lo niten l'reshus legaloi rak lo l'chaverev levada. Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai too stated in the sacred Zohar that permission to reveal the secrets of the Kabbala was only granted to himself and his associates. Ve'av gam zo is pli nisgava. Now this too is a remarkable wonder. And why is that? So it says, now we know that the sages like Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, they would study Torah, and they would even push away the prayer for the sake of the study. Those who are, the Torah was their part of their main occupation. They would study Torah and they would push away the prayer for that. So certainly that tells you that the study of the Torah that they studied then, the revealed part of the Torah, has this spiritual powers that it has the ability to push away the need to pray. That's what Alter Rebbe says now. For if so, meaning according to the superficial reading of the above quotation from the Raya Mehemna, from which it would appear that only the Zohar is called the tree of life, while the revealed plane of the Torah is considered the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In that case, that learning wouldn't push away the prayer. Then the study of the laws of ritual prohibitions and permissions, and surely the study of civil law, such as litigation on monetary matters, should not override the obligation of prayer. The prayer was set out according to the secrets of the Zohar and on the supernal unions of the various divine names and supernal sephirot for those who are familiar with them, such as Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai and his associates. But this is not a case. In fact, the study of the laws of what is ritual prohibition and prohibited and permitted, and even the study of civil law, does override the obligation to pray at fixed times. And Alter Rebbe brings this from the Gemara, that we find that they would study Torah and they would not stop always to pray. As stated in the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai and his associates, and likewise any others whose Torah study is their sole occupation, do not interrupt the Torah study for prayer. Now, by the way, that doesn't apply today. It's sole occupation. Obviously today we all have to pray in the right time. But in any case, back in the days, that's what it was. This applies even when one is occupied with a study of civil law like Rabbi Yehuda, all of whose studies was in the order of Nezikin, the laws of damages. Nevertheless, in order not to interrupt his studies, he prayed only every 30 days when reviewing his studies as stated in the Gemara. Furthermore, says the Alter Rebbe, בירושלמי פרק כמה דברוכה סביר לרב שמעון בר יוחאי דאפילו לקריאת שמע אין מפסיקים כי אם ממקרא ולא אם ממשנה. דעדיף ממקרא לרבי שמעון בר יוחאי. Also in the Jerusalem Talmud, in the first chapter of Brachas, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is of the opinion that even for the reading of the Shema, one interrupts only the study of scripture, but not of Mishnah, the oral Torah, the study of which is superior to the study of scripture, according to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We're not going to go into why the study of Mishnah is superior to Mikra. But in any case, it says clearly that when you study Mishnah, you don't stop not only for prayer, but even to say the Shema. He did not differentiate between studying the order of Zeraim, Moed, laws of agricultural law, laws of the holidays, and Kachim, laws of the sacrifices, and the orders of Taras and Ezikin, or the other parts of the Mishnah, which talks about purities and damages. So even what we see from here, that even study of the Torah, which talks about the monetary laws, the laws of Nezikin, one should also not interrupt his studies for the reading of Shema. And in parentheses, the Alter Rebbe notes that it sounds like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is contradicting himself from other places in the Zohar, but regarding which is superior, the Mishnah or the Mikra, the scripture. So is the Asatz Mevarim Imnu Mekam Cohen, the Mishnah Yeshivcha Chulu VaMikra Shoteras Moshe Vadei Adifa Mekabala Dei Matranisa Berai Meim Nesham. Actually, he here contradicts his own opinion, given in a number of instances in Rai Mehimna, that Mishnah, relative to scripture, is termed handmaiden, shifcha, and so on. And scripture, the Torah of Moses, is surely superior to the Kabbala, which is termed queen, matronisa. So in the above quoted passage in Rayim Mehemna, while the written Torah is termed king, which is an Aramaic malka. So in other words, he's saying that sounds like a contradiction within the Zohar. Which one is superior, the written Torah or the Mishnah? But he's not going to explain this right now. This is the Yesod Abba vested in Zeir Anpim, stated by Rabbi Yitzchak Luyer of blessed memory. In any way, back to the subject. Alter Rebbe goes on and says that even Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, when he was in the cave, he would certainly occupy himself all the time, not mainly with the mystical learning of the Zohar, but with the Nigla, with the revealed part of the Torah. Moreover, we find that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai dealt considerably, not only with mere statements of law in the Mishnayos, but also with the argumentations of problems and solutions, which, according to the original quotation from Rai Me'imna, derives from the side of evil and from the spirit of impurity. This he did even when he was in the cave, where legal adjudication, especially in civil suits, was obviously uncalled for. So when he was in the cave, We know it was 13 years in the cave. He studied with his son. And it says, indeed, the very fact that he underwent anguish when forced to hide in the cave made him worthy of this attainment. His attainment of understanding the depths of the Gemara and the questions and answers and so on. And this says the Alter Rebbe because the Talmud tells us, where it's stated in the Gemara that he countered every problematic query posed by Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair with 24 solutions. Pinchas ben Yair, who was his son-in-law, he saw him after 13 years in the cave, buried in the sand. He looked terrible. But yet, when he asked him questions, and every question he gave him 24 answers. And he told him, because of that sufferings, I was able to attain these understanding in the Torah. And Rabbi Shimon said to him, if you had not seen me like this, in this sorry state in the cave, you would not have found me like this, meaning understanding so deep the Torah. So what do we see basically? That Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was occupied with studying that part, the revealed part of the Torah. In fact, the principal occupation in the cave, the principal occupation of Rashbi and his son Rabbi Elazar, must have been with the teachings of the Mishnayos, the 600 orders extant in those days, until the time of our holy master Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, who compiled the Mishnah in 6 orders. Before the Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi compiled the Mishnah, what we have today in 6 orders, there was 600 orders. And that's what must be what they were occupied in the 13 years that they were in the cave. Where he could have completed the Zohar and the Tikkunim Zohar in 2 or 3 months. For surely he did not repeat the same subject twice. Moreover, says the Alter Rebbe, moreover, our sages of blessed memory have taught that since the day of the temple was destroyed, the Holy One, blessed be He, is only the 4 cubits of halacha, the study of Torah law, thus takes the place of the holy temple. So those are the questions the Alter Rebbe poses on the basic understanding or the misunderstanding of the Zohar. How then can we possibly say, as the above passage from Rai Mehimna might superficially indicate, that the study of the laws of ritual permissibility and the like is designated as the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and thus related to Klipas Nega, which is an admixture of good and evil. So certainly that is not the case. And the answers the Alter Rebbe will give us in tomorrow's lesson. So, B'ezrat Hashem, we shall see you tomorrow. Wishing you a wonderful day and all the best.